Hi, welcome to The New Economy. What's next? My name is D.R.C. Raming Jr. I'm your host today, and our guest today is Douglas Kryzan from CloudPro. He's a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and we're going to talk a little bit about Silicon Valley entrepreneurship and what opportunities there are in the new digital economy. Stay tuned. If you are a business person that is looking to grow your business in the new economy, this show is for you. My name is D.R.C. Raming Jr. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Arawak X, a financial services firm. I'm a serial entrepreneur, futurist, and technologist. I studied robotics and after university chose to build my international business from the Bahamas. With all that is going on in the world, one thing is certain. The businesses that will survive and thrive have to evolve or die. This show will answer the question, what's next for us? What's next for the new economy? Join us on The New Economy. What's next? With the right business technology tools, a small company can compete with a Fortune 500. Imagine making your current workforce 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more productive. New technology can be scary. It disrupts processes and industries and changes them in entirely new ways. But with change and disruption comes increased efficiencies of many times. As a business or organization, that means competing with the big boys. A better way of looking at technology is like an engineer does, not as something to be feared, but as a tool to be used. Engineers look at technology in four main ways. There is development, implementation, practical use, and maintenance. Each requires a different type of skill and a different kind of technical background. For most businesses, when you are thinking about accessing these productivity tools, you should concentrate on a solution, an implementation, and practical use and maintenance of that solution. Experts in these fields have specialized knowledge that is expensive to learn in terms of money, time, and years of licks from experience. Experience matters, as technology mistakes are really expensive. When we interview engineers and technologists, keep in mind what practical problem it is that they are trying to find a solution for. As entrepreneurs, business leaders, and policymakers, understand that the tool is only as good as the craftsman. So, Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here, DRC.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about CloudPro?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I'm Doug Kryzan, as DRC mentioned. I founded a company called CloudPro last year. We're a cloud consulting and professional services firm. We're focused on go-to-market, business transformation, and channel enablement programs. We work with large manufacturers such as Cisco and VMware on developing their cloud strategies. And we also work with the indirect channel as well. So distributors and VARs and agents, and we help them set up their cloud practices. The cloud is, we all know by now, provides many of the underpinnings we use for how we operate our businesses as well as our lives. Our particular niche at CloudPro is that we work with companies and really try to understand the ecosystem and incentives that drive that ecosystem for them, and then develop marketing programs and campaigns that enable their channel partners to increase adoption and grow their business.
So you used a lot of industry jargon there. Adoption meaning getting more customers, correct?
Yes, and also adoption of the technology, just getting people to use new types of technologies that may have been before unfamiliar to them, and helping them understand the application of new technologies with their businesses.
And it's certainly in our country, adoption is getting people to in contact with new technologies, and can be a scary thing for some of these some people, because it means learning new things. Learning new systems and processes. How do you smooth that gap?
It's an excellent question, and it touches on a number of different areas. I think It starts by addressing people's concerns and anxieties about change. Uh, we all often hear the expression change is good, but I feel that change that we're in control of is good. Sometimes if change is imposed upon us, sometimes we have some reservations about that. So I think, understanding what that technology means to a certain audience and being able to explain how it's going to provide some benefits, either in the form of making them more productive,
Mm-hmm.
providing greater job security,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, opening up new opportunities is part of what needs to happen to manage this change within an organization. I think over time, as new technology like the cloud and other types of technologies start to get traction and more investment is made in that technology, it starts to take on a life of its own, and you sort of reach this inflection point where the new technology becomes much better in a number of different ways than doing things the old way.
How did you come to Cloud Pro? This is not your first entrepreneurial venture, correct?
That's correct. So prior to Cloud Pro, I founded a company called Sequoia Worldwide. Um, we were a professional services company, again focusing on cloud services.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we grew that company to about 70 people, and then sold it to a large privately held VAR on the east coast of the U.S. And that VAR later went public. And so that's kind of the history. And then after my time spent at Sequoia and the company that acquired us, I founded CloudPro.
And VAR meaning.
Oh, a VAR is um, it's the middleman between the manufacturer and the customer. So VAR
Mm-hmm.
stands for value added reseller. So they're a reseller
Mm-hmm.
in the indirect channel. So you can sell products directly, or you have a sales force from at a manufacturer that sells directly to the customers, or you can go through what's called distribution or resellers.
And why is that important? A lot of people think, let me just deal with um, the manufacturer. It'd be cheaper. But where does the VAR add value?
Yeah. So that's an excellent question. So in a number of areas. So one of the key reasons manufacturers uh, like to work with VARs in the indirect channel is it gives them the ability to scale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're able to get some efficiencies in terms of running their sales organization by working with distributors and VARs, uh, and they're also able to extend the reach. So, while a company might not want to set up a branch office, a sales office, uh, in some part of the world, let's just say
Mm-hmm.
it's just not feasible for whatever reason, they can go through a distributor and have access to new markets. The VARs also add value in a number of ways, and that's how they get their name value add. They will take standard products and they will add value in the form of services to that product. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, if it's, let's say, some type of software product that needs to be integrated or adapted for,
Or customized. And sometimes some support. Correct.
and they'll add exactly any any sort of way that you could imagine that a customer might need help using a product or service, a VAR has an answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's installation, whether it's some type of configuration or post sales management, a VAR can help.
Wonderful, wonderful. Um, Speaking of scaling up, like now we're starting to get into business models. Can you talk a little bit about um, the more generally speaking, um, the importance of finding the right business model as an entrepreneur, and and the process of it.
Right. So, excellent question. So, I think that's where the heavy lift is, at least, for the startups that I've been involved with. So, up front, you want to spend the right amount of time and do your due diligence and making sure that you're setting the right course and you're building in the right DNA uh, for your business model. And it takes a lot of time. I've seen many entrepreneurs want to jump to the answer right away without fully understanding the selling environment, the markets, the ecosystems, and the incentives that
Hmm.
are required for taking an idea and successfully marketing and selling it. Um, I say it's a heavy lift, and that it's very important because it has both the intended and unintended consequences. That if for some of these decisions, if you start going down the wrong path, you may have an opportunity to pivot, but sometimes you don't for whatever reason. So
Especially in larger organizations, it's more difficult to pivot. Correct?
it is, and I've been in situations myself where I tell people I've created original sin that we're all living with right now because I didn't spend the time to think through all of the implications and consequences for that decision that at the time didn't seem like it was all that relevant. But things take on their own life and become institutionalized within organizations, both large and small. So I think you want to be thoughtful about whatever it is your business is about and the model that you're going to invest in.
Yeah, and for people and for entrepreneurs at home that may be unfamiliar with what a business model is just basically how you're going to make money. There are many different business models, and there is no right business model. You have to find the one that works for you and your organization, and that has to do with how you charge customers, how you deliver value, and then it can get very complicated from there. But that's the beginnings of it. And there's a lot of trial and error in finding that business model, correct?
Oh, there is, and I think as a business leader and as an entrepreneur, you're kind of you want to build a business model that gives you flexibility to pivot, but by the same token, um, you don't want to have too much variance in your model and pivot too much because then ultimately you don't have a model at all. You have
Mm-hmm.
sort of an ad hoc kind of way of running a business without having any kind of set direction. So again, I think it's important to spend the time up front and have the hard conversations either with your team or with yourself where you really hold up your ideas to scrutiny
Mm-hmm.
because I always feel it's far easier to discover the uh, any issues early rather than having the market or your customers tell you that it's a problem, at which time you're having more serious consequences.
We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsor. At Arawak X, we understand that for businesses to grow, they need capital to hire staff, buy equipment, and fuel innovative ideas. We support this process by using technology, years of business acumen, and a world-class team to get business the investment they need to get to the next level. If you are a business owner and need between $100,000 and $3 million, contact us today. We will schedule a meeting over the phone or video chat. Get on the path to your dreams. Arawak X. Dream bigger.
Documents are part of every essential business process. That's why it is important that they keep moving forward. Documents can be forwarded to the wrong person, left behind on someone's desk, or in the worst case scenario, they're completely forgotten. So it can take an eternity for an invoice to be approved, for example. This causes aggravation and costs time and money. DocuWare takes your documents straight to the finish line electronically, without detours. All documents are always exactly where they are needed. Employees are immediately notified if they have to process a document. And what previously took an eternity is now almost incidental.
I've been blessed to grow up in a business family. The most important thing I've learned from them was to listen to experts' stories, learn from their successes, try to avoid their mistakes, and copy best practices. In the New Economy TV show, we are bringing innovative experts that are growth-focused. This show is for entrepreneurs, business leaders, and policymakers. Join me and my guests every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. on our TV. The New Economy. What's next?
And I think it's important to spend the time up front and have the hard conversations, either with your team or with yourself, where you really hold up your ideas to scrutiny. Because I always feel it's far easier to discover the any issues early rather than having the market or your customers tell you that it's a problem, at which time you're having more serious consequences. In our business, we always say that another perspective gives you like 50 extra IQ points. It helps you sort of get out of a trap that you can set for yourself by only looking at your business a certain way.
It's good to be focused, let me say, but you don't want to get into tunnel vision. Stepping back a little bit, you are in Silicon Valley. There's a big desire for every place to copy Silicon Valley. We would like to, there's talk here of making Grand Bahama Silicon Island, for example. It's very much envied around the world. Could you talk a little bit about what makes the place magical?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Having lived here for over 30 years, I have to remind myself that there are a number of things that are special about Silicon Valley, even though I've become so accustomed to it for having lived and worked here for so long. I think, Silicon Valley has the history, and I think what makes it special is its diversity. So people from all over the world come here almost as a mecca for because they either have an idea or they want to be a part of something interesting and big, and it creates this opportunity to innovate that it's sometimes hard to find in other places. And I think it's part of the culture and the way of thinking. And I think its diversity allows that there's different cultures, different perspectives that come with that, and an openness to new ideas and to want to race and try new things. So I think that's a part of it. I think that there is the history as well. People like Bill Hewlett, Dave Packard formed their company here. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. The list kind of goes on and on. And you're always a stone's throw away from a company that's developed some technology that we use on a daily basis, whether it's Apple or Google
or in my case, like Adobe suite of software for creative arts.
Yeah, exactly.
Those.
Adobe.
Yeah.
So they're all here, and so there's there's an energy and excitement about that, I think. I also think that just where we're physically located, it's a nice environment. We're close to the ocean, as obviously you are in the Bahamas, so that's nothing new. But you're also like 3.5 hours away from the Sierras if you want to go skiing. You're near San Francisco, so there's many things to do there. There's theater, great restaurants, museums, and so forth. So I think that's attractive as well. I always wonder, like, okay, so now in a sort of a post-COVID world, what does that mean? Are people still going to be interested in coming to Silicon Valley? And I think it's kind of mixed. It's yes and no. There's now many more new technologies that make working remotely easier and more efficient and more effective. So I think that's going to help democratize and sort of level the playing field quite a bit, which is great because at the end of the day, really, it's not so much the place; it's the ability, I think, to facilitate a way to aggregate people and ideas to come up, to bring together the best and brightest stars to do something new and to do something innovative. So it'll be interesting, at least for me, to see what how people will work in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, most definitely. There's going to be some big changes coming, and I think the biggest change is that this COVID-19 crisis has really shown how close the world is, and how people can work almost from anywhere. So it kind of shakes up the idea of geography. Obviously, you're not going to get away from nice weather and location, close access to services, but at the same time, you can, we could have been we're having this conversation thousands of miles away. That's not something that would have been. It was possible, but wasn't mainstream.
Right. It's become the new normal. It seems people have Zoom parties now, and
yeah, I was my generation is a lot of my friends are turning 30, so all of the parties are now on Zoom. It's interesting.
Same here. It's interesting. It's interesting how necessity accelerates adoption of new technology. So.
Yes. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsor. Think direct ownership of the Bahamian pie isn't for you? Think again. At Arawak X, we believe in the ingenuity of the Bahamian people. These times are uncertain and unprecedented, but we know that in every crisis there is an opportunity to add value to people's lives. To this, we understand that new businesses will be formed and old ideas whose time has finally come will be realized. We see this in industries long been ignored by traditional financial services and by society at large, particularly in our digital businesses, agribusiness, fishing, manufacturing, and even new touristic ventures. Due to our present circumstances, these businesses have finally been brought to the forefront. Arawak X seeks to give your ideas and your participation a means of making your financial dreams a reality. We give businesses and investors tools needed to finance them. Business is a complicated thing, with many moving and changing parts that often require multidisciplinary teams to turn ideas into reality. While no one can truly say which businesses will make it and thrive and which will not, there are certain formulaic traits that successful businesses have. This is why we here at Arawak X place such a high emphasis on corporate governance and the structure it brings to give companies the best chance at growth and expansion. Arawak X operates a regulated and financially inclusive platform that combines modern technology with best practices and a world-class team to bring together businesses and investors at every level. allowing wider participation in ownership of companies. So here's how it works. Investors, both foreign and local, individual and institutional, can view offerings and directly invest into these companies. We have spent several years and invested greatly in our staff and technology processes. We are doing this by greatly expanding the ease of investment. In other words, people will be able to participate in promising new ventures for as little as $50. The ethos of our institution is that of financial inclusion. And in this spirit, we ourselves will be a publicly traded company. In these next few months, as we roll out our platform, know that we view ourselves as an integral part of a wider societal change, the change that brings ownership, opportunity to everyone. We are pleased to work with our partners in industry, government, civil society, and the people in making the Bahamas the best little nation on this planet. As a first step, we have put together a free online course, the Intelligent Bahamian Investor Masterclass, that will give you some of the basics to investing. This can be found at invest242.com. Arawak-X, dream bigger. Any last words? Any words of encouragement for our budding Silicon Valley?
I'm trying to think back for when I first started doing this. And for me, that there's a couple takeaways, and it's just based on my own experiences and not by any stretch of the imagination, like an expert. But I can say, again, from my own experience, that you want to find your inspiration and your motivation, and be aware that sometimes that changes, that moves, that changes and moves over time. What inspires you today may not be what inspires you a year from now or 2 years from now. So kind of be open to exploring what that is, and realize that it's an important component for success, because inevitably, as an entrepreneur, there's going to be highs and lows, and you want to try and figure out how you can sort of balance it out and get sort of a steady state. So, so that you can kind of, just control that a little bit better personally. The other, sort of piece of advice is find mentors. Find people that not only agree with your idea, but that can give you constructive criticism, because you need all of that. The folks that have good questions about your plans force you to think more critically about your idea and help you sharpen and hone it, so that you don't waste time and you don't waste resources. And those are two important ingredients for your venture. And then lastly, I think it's just spend the time up front thinking about it, talking about it, presenting your idea and representing your idea in different ways. There's many paths to success, I find. I have my path, you have your path. Find which one aligns with how you like to work, what your goals are, who are your sort of aspirational role models. Think through that, because you're going to have to draw upon that for strength and inspiration to move forward. And those are some of the soft. I mean, there's other, obviously there's dozens of other things that need to be taken into consideration. These are kind of some of the more soft areas that have to be considered as well, that are related to the individual that's driving the venture. And so those are, some, based on my experiences, some of the things that have been important to me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, and I hope people got some good information and good ways of thinking about entrepreneurship from this.
Well, thank you, DRC. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show and talk to you.
That was Douglas Kryzan from CloudPro. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time.